Thanks
Right.
for being with us today. This is so cool to see everybody here.
Wow, yeah, great.
This is nice.
Nice.
Technology. It brings people together. Okay, so we got the stream going live. Thank you, Ray and Gustav, for all your hard work.
Thank you both, gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah. We're gonna just we'll hang a couple more minutes here just as a few more people connect, and then we'll get things kicked off.
Hello all, so we are live.
Thank you so much.
Can you see it?
I need
Yep, I saw it on it's live on the Facebook.
Okay.
So we're good, we're rolling.
Yeah, if people in the group here, I can make a special request before we get started. If you could go to the IMEP Facebook page, if you're able to do this, and just share the link out, that would be super cool for us.
Yeah, we gotta have a new link. The link I have is not working.
But share it out
Okay,
to the world. We want the world to see this.
Yeah.
Streaming in any case.
Phil, can you deal with that for me? Because I don't have really, let me see.
That's all right. If you're able to do it easily without, causing a problem for your machine, then that's great. Otherwise,
Right.
We've got big audiences out there. Yeah.
One of us should be able to do it. And Phil, if you can't, let me know and I'll
Yep,
try.
I got it.
You got it?
Yep,
Great.
I got it.
Great. Very
Well, cool. So let's get started because we've got a great group of people with us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. My name is Jason Camelio. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Global Initiatives at Berklee, and I'm joined today by my colleague Ray Soul, the Assistant Director. And this is part of a series that we've been running, since COVID started. This is called Global Connections. And joining us today, we have an amazing group of artists, educators, alumni, and our partners from our Berklee Global Academic Partner, IMEP Paris College of Music. The session today is being recorded. In our Zoom group, we've got lots of people that are students at Berklee, students at IMEP, and in our larger community and the global partners. And then we're streaming this out on Facebook, and I'm hoping that welcome to all of you in our Facebook community as well. Please be sure to follow us online. Go to IMEP's social media pages and follow them. Go to Berklee's social media pages and follow us there as well to stay connected. I hope that you and your families and all of your colleagues and friends are all healthy and safe. And please stay so as we go forward here. I'm really, really excited to also welcome with us today a dear friend, incredible musician, and colleague at Berklee College of Music. He's our Assistant Director for International Admissions for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, Marek Ditka. Marek, thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And also, hosting this session, moderating this session is an incredible musician as well, educator, renowned artist, and co-founder of IMEP Paris College of Music. Somebody who I truly admire for all of the work he's doing over the years, motivating talented musicians, helping to lead them forward to incredible careers. IMEP, just so that everybody knows, in the few years it has been open, in partnering with Berklee, we actually have 2 presidential scholarship recipients that have joined us from IMEP, and our guests today were scholarship recipients as well. This is a place you want to go study music, whether you're looking to come to Berklee, which we hope you do, or if you're just looking to build your skills and have a successful career. The people at IMEP are fantastic educators. They are connected to the industry. They're leaders, and I truly respect all the work they're doing. And one of their co-leaders here is with us, and he's going to take over the helm now. Peter Giron, thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you for your kind words, Jason, first of all, and thank you all for being here and taking the time to share this moment with us. First of all, maybe just speaking a little bit about IMEP, as some of you may know. Well, first of all, let's address the first thing is that we're going to be in English. If there's anything that isn't clear, please use the chat link there so you can ask us questions. So we don't leave you in the lurch. We don't leave you in the dark. We want to make this as open as we can. Concerning IMEP, as you know, we're back in confinement. Our goal remains the same, and that goal being that we're going to be hybrid as much as we can, as soon as we can, utilizing brick and mortar, utilizing our house, and as well as being online, everything that we have to do to be able to maintain quality in terms of the jobs that we do and a clear line of interaction with our students as much as possible. While this looks difficult for us, it's difficult for everyone. We've been through this before. We will find ways to make things work. So that is pretty much the news where we are right now, as this is all fresh. I want to especially thank my former students, professional musicians that they are, for taking the time to share this with us. And I guess they must be wondering a little bit how this happened. I'd like to take 5 minutes and maybe try to explain it. Over the summer, I was in touch with Jason. And what we talked about was, well, I told him a story. There was no more work. I wasn't gigging or everything. You guys know that I play, at least the people who were my students, the rest of you, I play Rick Margitz's band, fine, excellent, brilliant saxophonist and composer. And we had a residency going, and we lost the residency because we couldn't bring a band in. Rick called me one day and said they want us to do solo sets. So I decided to go in at first to do a playback thing and play bass lines, play melodies. And finally, what I decided to do was to take my bass and not plug in, just upright bass, singing and playing. And I did over 25 gigs like this. And while I was doing these gigs, what I was reminded of my discussion with Jason, and it struck me that I have absolutely no reference point in terms of a studying musician or a young musician concerning what it is that we're facing today. I have no reference in my background, and I've done a bunch of stuff, but I'm kind of in the lurch here, and so I called. I wrote to Antoine, to Margot, to Francois, and to Jemina, and also to Nicolas Deferrand, who couldn't be here, but will make himself available to us in the future for sure, to basically find out, first of all, how have you been, where you've been, and how you're preparing, how things have changed through this. One thing about you guys, that you were always, all four of you, very active. You were pushers. You were moving, and I'm wondering, since I have no background in this, how you're moving through this. Has it changed your? For me, when I see the four of you or these students, I'm thinking that you have an exceptional experience, in the sense that you were not only students where you're from, but you went to Berklee, and your connections are probably greater. They cross boundaries. You're probably making music with people who are in countries where you're not, or you never imagined being. What I want to know is how are you through this? How have your plans changed? Have they not changed at all? And one question I want to ask you also, and this is a little more complicated, have your studies helped to bring you to a point that you have achieved a greater amount of flexibility? Whether your studies, you're dealing with people from different places, have you got options that maybe you wouldn't have had you not done the things that you've done up until now? I just want to get an idea where you guys are at. So I hope maybe that clarifies it a little bit. And I just want, so I throw open the door to you. What can you tell us? Anyone?
Peter, it might be great to introduce each of our guests so they can tell a
Yes.
little bit about their background and what they're doing as artists, and then they can kind of dig in and share a little insight into your questions.
Thank you. Okay, so let's do that. And you know what I'll do is I'll just name each one. I'll let them tell us. I'll let them speak for themselves. Margot, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? What you've been doing, where you're at?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can
Yes.
hear you great. You
Thank
sound fantastic.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for organizing this conversation between musicians. I think this is really important to stay connected all together, especially right now. And I feel super happy to see all of you, especially since the new announcement that we got yesterday. So yeah, thank you very much for organizing this today. Yes, I'm a flute player and also a singer. I went at the IMEP a long time ago now. It was in 2000. I don't remember exactly, but I went to the IMEP. I did the 5 years there, and then I went to Berklee, and I came back 3 years ago. And yeah, so basically this is my parcours. This is what I did, and I also did the conservatory in classical, like in flute. Yeah.
Thanks, Margot. Okay. And so let's see. Francois, what can you tell us, man?
Yeah. So I'm a guitar player, and yeah, in terms of my background, I mean, I went to the IMEP between 2011 and 2015, then moved to Boston to go to Berklee between 2015 and 2018, and then in 2019 I moved to New York in order to get my master's from Manhattan School of Music, which I'm currently studying in, and yeah, that's my path as a student.
Great. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So Antoine, pick it up, man.
Yes,
Okay.
sorry about that, guys. There was
No
like
problem.
network problem. Yeah, so guys, again, let me try to put the video real quick. Yeah, thank you again for organizing this. Very exciting, seeing like all these familiar faces. It's amazing. Yeah. So about me, I'm a violinist, composer. I have different projects, but I went, of course, like to IMEP from 2009 to 2013, if I remember. Then went to Berklee from 2013 to 2018. And then pretty much as the same as Francois, I went, yeah, I just went to New York in 2019 and went through musicals and stuff like that with a lot of different projects. And as Margot, I did also in between in France, multiple conservatories for classical music. That's pretty much what it is.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Okay.
Can we just ask how are all you doing now in COVID? You know, what has changed for you with your studies, with your performance careers, with the way you're collaborating, with Antoine being in a car in Corsica right now? That's really kind of interesting to see. But tell us, like, what's going on? How are you managing now?
Yeah, that's anyone?
Feel
One
free
of
to
you?
jump in.
Who's-
You know,
who's
Francois,
talking
how are
first?
you doing with the studies?
I mean, it's an adjustment for sure. I mean, it's a different story. What MSM did, which is pretty great, is they did an hybrid of online and in-person stuff. So we got to play together again, which was like so good. and the rest is online. It's a mix, and it's not that bad. The only thing is, of course, you have to respect all the rules in terms of social distancing and all that. And it implies some changes, but it's manageable. And at the end of the day, we play together, which is just so great. What I miss so much between March and September. So that's pretty cool, and it tends to work. So far, I think we haven't had any new COVID positive test or something. They're testing people like on a regular basis and everything. But so far it's been good, and so I think we will be able to like do the semester this way, which is pretty amazing because I wasn't so sure it was going to happen. So yeah, it works. It works, and I mean, if you're asking like how was everything going between March and September when I started school again, it was hard. As for everybody, I guess, but yeah, definitely. I mean, I lost all my gigs, and yeah, I had to stay in a tiny apartment in New York with my fiance, who's also working. So it's like you're sharing a tiny space, and you have to make it work. It's a different story, and but we did, you know, and yeah, all I could do was practice and teach, and that's what I did, and it was great. In a sense, you know, I'm glad I went through to answer Peter's question. I'm glad I went to those schools because they definitely helped. You know, the schools got me some students. MSM also got me some students. I learned many skills that I could use during that lockdown. You know, being able to record yourself, being able to transcribe stuff or arrange stuff for people. Those kind of things that I learned at schools were definitely helpful. And also, the most importantly is that I gained this network through those schools that I could use to kind of stay in touch with people and somehow do something, because otherwise it would have been, yeah, pretty with nothing to do, I guess. Or
Right.
Hey, Francois,
about it.
I know you're a hard worker, so there are people who I've spoken to who say that that they've actually really benefited from the confinement at the same time to be able to pick up on stuff that they really didn't get done, change their way of practicing. And I know you're a workhorse, so did you enjoy the confinement
Man.
somewhere?
Yeah, that was one of the good things. And actually, you know, that's the thing is like when I moved to New York, man, you cannot sleep. You cannot like you shouldn't like not touch your instrument, because when it gets back, like we started playing again recently, and you can tell people who've been lazy on the instrument, and that's not good. Not in a scene like New York, I guess, because you get destroyed. People are crazy over here, and so I had to do something, and then yes, I enjoy studying anyway, so I took that time to do stuff that I've never had time to do, which was great.
Okay.
And also like go back to stuff and then yeah, explore and you know, because I had nobody to play with. I practiced solo guitar, which is something that is difficult to do, and I've not had the chance to do that a lot. So I did that, and it was just great. In that sense, it was great. I had time for me. But in the other, I mean, the other thing is that it was important to not to stay consistent in practicing, because I knew it was going to get back to some playing at some point, and man, like the level here is so high that like if you don't do that, it's going to be really tough to get back into it. So yeah.
I had a quick follow-up question, Francois, for you. Thanks for your elaborate description of your lockdown times and everything. You are, you know, an exemplary transcribing machine. I mean, we see you churn out videos and everything is right on, and we just looking at that and thinking, wow, this is the way to do it. Indeed, I was just curious if you'd mind talking just a little bit about what is your process for transcriptions. Do you just, by listening to something, all of a sudden you feel like, you know what, that thing there, I want to be able to do that? Or do you have more of a strategic approach where you kind of have your list of things that you know you want to get to and you kind of follow through?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think kind of both, I would say. My main thing is that, you know, you can go to as many schools as you want and all that, but I mean, the truth is in the records, right? And so I think, you know, I always go back to the records, and then no matter the styles, by the way. But yes, I just love learning stuff, and also like when I listen to something and it intrigues me, or I'm like, what is that? Then I transcribe. My my sort of way to live music is like, if I like something, I'll learn. That's it. And so that's why I transcribe so much, I would say.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Thank you.
How about our other guests? How are you faring, Margot? You know, as you've been working on your career, how are you dealing with life in COVID?
Yes, so for sure during March and April, I had some concerts who have been postponed, and I cross my finger that they will take place at the end of the year, but I don't know. And I have been lucky during the summer and since September, because I had several shows happening, so that was great. And during March and April, I was also traveling for like every week to go to another city to do a state diploma in jazz. So I had to finish my exams at home online, and that was different. Like we were supposed to do a concert at the end of the program, and we changed it into a recording. So thankfully, I had all the material to record, a good material, so that was great. And I was able to record an arrangement that I did for flute, just for flute, with effects. I mean, you have to get creative when you have this kind of situation, which can be interesting also. And I also did a video on my rooftop that was funny. Yeah, I continued to work with musicians online. We would send recordings to each other, but you need a good equipment to do that. And I learned how to use Ableton and recording equipment in my schools. So yeah, that was, I mean, people learn with tutorials, or like there is different ways to learn, but I learned it at school, and yeah, it helped me a lot. And what else? For like, because there is so many things that I want to say. I'm trying to stay focused on your first question, which was, how do I deal with the situation, right?
Yeah, as an artist, how are you
Yeah.
making use of this time? How are you staying creative and engaged? And this is great to hear.
Yes. So for me, I feel like to play music when I'm locked down is kind of a lucky thing I can do, because I feel like I can travel in my head while I'm still locked down. So that's great, because I compose, and when I do transcriptions, I feel like it's kind of a meditation, you know? So that's a good thing. Art is helpful for that, I think, when you draw or when you do, I mean, different arts, like I think it helps you a lot. And when, as you said, Francois, I think that when you're not able to play with other musicians, it's good to do transcription or to play over recordings, like you would be a member of the band, and then you you don't lose your level when you're able to play with people again, when time is when the situation gets better. So
Great.
yeah.
And yeah,
Great.
Antoine, tell
Great
us,
answer.
yeah, how are you doing?
Yes, all right. I'm finally close to Ajaccio, so now the connection is better. All right. So basically, what happened was before even the whole thing started, this whole pandemic started, I was on a Broadway show, and it was amazing. It was like 8 shows a week. We were on the road for a year. It was like a contract for a year, and it was amazing. The show was called The Band's Visit, and we were going throughout all America. It was amazing. Then, of course, March arrived, and it was like, at first we were like, oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be like 1-2 weeks, and then we're gonna be back, to job and to work, and no problem. And then, well, months arrived. So yeah, I'm going back to New York. I had to crash at my brother's place because I didn't even renew my rent. So I was like, yeah, kind of homeless. And so yes, during this pandemic, what was very interesting is the first months were so creative for me and so meditative for me. I took a lot of time to meditate about the current situation, and even before being creating, trying to be kind to myself, because I know that on the human side, in order to be creative and efficient in your work, it's important also to physiologically and psychologically being, like pretty much on top of the things, which is hard in these conditions. So, but yeah, those during like those first months of the pandemic, yes, I was like, writing a lot of different songs. I had like for the new Tubers Band album, actually, which is Tubers Band, which is my band. And we actually did something with Jason Camelio like a couple years ago while we were in Berklee with this band for a Canada tour, and it went super great. It was great, and so yes, the second album is on the way. So I'm just like writing the songs. We also got like a fund, like a grant from the city of New York, in order to have our album recorded with nice conditions. We entered this management company called Dog and Pony Industries, and they're very, very cool people, very efficient people. They are taking care of people like Ari Ernig, um, uh, David Shuzinski, Screaming Endless Horses. Who, what was the name of this pianist again? Um, Anyway, like very, very cool, very interesting musician, very creative musicians. So yeah, we're very glad that this actually really happened pretty much during the pandemic, like very curiously happened around this time. Then, like I was, kind of like teaching here and there, like online, mostly jazz and classical music. But yeah, the more the pandemic was going, the crazier it was in New York. And I really felt, up to a certain point, I really felt that I had to go back home for, psychological reason, even if the, like the situation in France right now is pretty critical as well. Like it was, I just felt that it's been 7 years. I was like going back and forth for like 1 week, 2 weeks, and then like coming back for several months in America. And I was like, maybe it's time to go back for a little bit more, and still, like, and trying, as Margot mentioned, like trying to reconnect also with the contact I have in France, because after all, this is also where I was born, and there's so many there's amazing musicians, that are there. So there's a lot of things, in traveling also, in order to really, I don't know, like recenter myself in a certain way. I also practice, of course, like doing transcription, as they were saying, like, but even it was crazy. Like I was in this little village in Corsica, and and I played with some of the villagers there, and we played some very old, Corsican polyphonic chant kind of thing, and it was just, it was really about the learning as well. I've been, like learning different things and coming back also to a culture that I, in a certain way, not abandoned but left for quite a while. And I think that if I'm not back into this kind of thing, this maybe won't help me as much, creatively and in all my endeavors and all, the project I have. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Yeah, I was supposed to be playing for the Martinique Jazz Festival in January, but I don't know what's gonna happen with the pianist Maher Bourrois. And same thing, like we're supposed to have answers, but who knows, how the pandemic is gonna turn. We don't know. So that's it. Taking day per day, and trying to be creative and taking distance also towards this thing. I was also, and I promise this is the last thing because I know we need to move on, but before I left New York, I also had the chance to actually have a lot of gypsy jazz gigs within the French community, especially near restaurants in Brooklyn. Yeah, Brooklyn, mostly Brooklyn, a little bit in Queens, but mostly in Brooklyn. So yeah, that was also, nice little, payment here and there, that could help. But except that, I was just teaching and, creating, meditating, and that's it.
Great.
Beautiful. I have a quick follow-up question. Antoine, always great to see you. Any
Thanks.
new discoveries, any new toys in the collection? The new carbon electric violin, or a new
Yeah, well,
piece of software that you're using all of a sudden that you never got
yeah,
around to?
well, I mean, I was about to say recently, it's been actually like a good year that I had this new violin called ETJ, ETJ. It's actually, it's a baritone electric violin, which is very convenient. It's a very specific violin. Like the maker is actually in southern France. His name is Eric Thomas Jacquin, which is why it's called ETJ. And this violin is interesting because there is two inputs. One has like one is for just a pickup, and another one is linked in a microphone that is inside the wood of the instrument. So I can have different configuration. Like if I want to play in a more like funk rock band, I can use, the input that is more like a pickup kind of thing. And if I want to play more like jazz or, more like an amplified classical baroque improvisation kind of thing, I would use the other input. The good thing about this instrument as well is that it's also it's a baritone violin, which means that it's a violin that is, tuned like an octave lower, and so I can basically cover the register of a cello and a viola, which means that sometime if I have someone who cannot do a gig or need a viola or a cello player, I can use this instrument as a backup.
Amazing.
It will kind of do the job, but yeah, that's the kind of thing as well. I also it doesn't it's not really related to that, but there was another detail I wanted to mention. During the pandemic, because I was with this musical, and I guess I don't know if François, now you're still studying, so you're not on O1 visa, right? You're still on F visa. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So they were asking us within the the company manager was suggesting us, all the people from the company, to actually apply for unemployment benefits. And this was also a challenge to apply for PUA, I mean, unemployment benefits in New York. And, trying to get on the phone at 5:30, 6 a.m. every day to maybe have someone, trying to take your case and maybe giving you, acédique. I'm gonna speak French right now, but like like aids, like financial aids for the job I was doing. So this was also very instructive, not very artistic, but administrative wise and professionally wise, it was very instructive. To go through this process. Then I had to cut it because somebody told me that was actually bad for my immigration status. So I cut it immediately. But that's it. So that helped me out also, like as a supposedly unemployed musician, it helped me out, in the process, like to actually sign for an employment. That's it. I shut up right now.
No, but
Wonderful.
this is great. I'd like to jump in here real quick, and because I'm gonna say this in French, Jason. So don't mind me for a second. Je vois qu'il y a des élèves français qui sont ici. Moi, je vois ça comme un énorme avantage de parler avec ces trois personnes qui sont sérieux, qui bougent. But this is the thing that gets me about the three. You guys are moving. You guys are doing stuff. Je voulais savoir si, pour l'instant, s'il n'y a pas quelqu'un qui veut oser de poser une question un de les trois en français, par exemple, en anglais, comme vous voulez. Okay, does anyone have any questions, or amongst the students especially? You know, speak up, you know, jump in, don't be ashamed. We could do a translation thing if need be. Does anyone have any question? Une question, s'il vous plaît.
Yeah, and for those of us that are in the Facebook group as well, feel free to post your questions there,
Oui,
and
yeah.
we'll ask them here as well. So anybody here, any of our guests that are joining us from IMEP or that are interested, please feel free to unmute yourself. You can ask a question.
No one.
I guess they've got everything taken care of. Here's a great question for our guests that I think would be really interesting to see. And I think Margot, you touched on this because you're working on developing your technology skills to continue to expand what you're able to create. Based on your experiences studying at IMEP and studying at Berklee, what are some of like the takeaways, if there's even one experience that you had on your own or experience that you had with a faculty member or a fellow student at either places in Paris or in Boston that helped you to that you've been able to lean on to continue to motivate yourself and continue to allow yourself to be creative? Is there any story that you could tell or experience that you can share that is helping you today to continue to be creative, to be engaged and productive in your work?
Yes, thank you for your question. Actually, there is a lot of things that happened since I got to Berklee. I went to Berklee. I'm trying to think about what I'm going to tell you because there is so many stuff. So yeah, I guess I would say three most important things I got since I went to Berklee is like all the knowledge I got, all the education I got there with all my classes, the teachers I met, which was really like amazing. Like we had a lot of master class, we met a lot of people. And also the experience that we got there, like you can go in recording studios and it feels like it's the real life in the school. Like if you want to record your project, you are going to find people to record with you, and you're going to record during the night because it's always full during the day. So you have to be really motivated to record during the night. And it's always moving. Like you said, François, earlier, it's always busy. Like people are working all the time. If you take, I would say a few hours in your weekend to have a rest, it's like, okay, but not too much because you feel like you have to be on top all the time. So yes, so we did the recordings that were amazing. I was so happy because I got, as a flute player, I was called a lot of, very, très souvent, sorry, my English, often to record in the music, in the film scoring department. And it was really like every week I would go there on Wednesday to record student project, and I like it so much because we had 15 minutes to read the parts and to record each project. And for me it was great because then I got to be used to it and to be efficient. And now when I go to a studio to record, I have some reflex. That's great. I know how to be efficient. So this experience was amazing. We had like a lot of good material to practice. We had the practice room that was amazing because we could practice in those long corridors with people from every countries, like from all over the world. And if you don't know the people in the practice room close to your practice room and you just like his music or her music, you can just knock on the door and play together. And it was so cool. I really like that. And also, yeah, the connection that you make, because then now I feel like I know people, like not in every country, but in a lot of countries. And that's great because they know that they can call me when they are in Paris. and I know I can call them if I move around, and they know people who knows people, and I feel like it's a bubble, and it's so cool because I feel like now we can, if you have the material to record yourself, then you can work with people very far from you, and I really like that.
It's a global community, right?
It's a global
wonderful.
community,
Indeed,
sure.
global community.
Any surprises for the three of you in this period? Did anything happen? Anything unusual that you wouldn't have expected? A surprise call or a session that took place, or some work that you did that you didn't expect, or were you asked to do something that normally you wouldn't be asked to do? And you know, the phone call. Did you? I guess what I'm asking is, did you end up having an experience like I had, doing something that you didn't expect doing?
Well, coming back to the musical I was telling you guys about, one day I was like working, you know, on my artist visa application, and I received this text. This guy, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, okay. I received this text from this violin player, amazing violin player. Check it out. He's from Iraq, all right, and and he's an amazing Arabic, you know, like music and classical player. Like, he does a lot of things. And he told me, man, I have someone asked me to do this musical. I cannot do it because I'm already super busy for a lot of things like this year. Are you interested? And I said, yes. And I just checked out the website. The musical was super well rated, and this also helped me out actually. I emailed the casting director. I went there, and they approved my, they hired me, and this thing from this text and this day was the thing that approved in a certain way my working visa for 3 years in the US. So it's like, this was really a surprising gig. Yes.
For sure. Wow. It's something. 3 years. It's amazing. Hello, can anyone hear?
Yeah, we can't. You had muted
We
yourself,
got
my
you.
friend.
Yes.
Something cut out on my end. I'm sorry.
Well, so we have
So-
a question. We have a question in the chat, gentlemen. From
Indeed.
Helen.
Yes.
Yeah. Please, if you could take that one.
From Facebook, hey, how do you make ends meet in the USA? Are the gigs enough? Are you making enough money off of your gigs? How are you guys making it in my home country? How's it going? Francois.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. No, but I can tell you like a few things. First is that when I was back in Boston, after I graduated Berklee, they gave me like a year to work sort of freely in the country. So I stayed in Boston for a year, and I worked as a musician, and it was great. One thing, my main advice is that you should be able to do as many things as possible in terms of styles and your skills. By that I mean, don't, if you're like a jazz guitar player, in my case, don't just be a jazz guitar player. For me, I graduated Berklee, and what saved me and what allowed me to pay the rent for a year was wedding gigs, and and wedding gigs. You play this much jazz in the 4-hour gig. The rest is all funk, pop, rock, whatever. So you need to be versatile. Also, I was teaching, so you need to be able to teach. It's a skill, really. People think it's a given if you're a good musician, but that's not the case at all. And so you have to work on that. And I built a studio in a year. I was over 10 students per week, and I was already doing online stuff back then, and that was 2 years ago. And then also the last thing is that I was just, that was more for my pleasure, but I was doing jazz gigs also with my friends and stuff that paid a lot less. So I would not be able to live off of that, but I was doing it more for the fun of it, but still it was bringing some grocery money, I would say. And so that was it in Boston. Now, of course, I moved to New York, and New York is over the top expensive. Boston is expensive, but New York is something else. And like really, if you have no idea, it's really tough. To be honest, it's a really expensive city. And I go to school to Manhattan School of Music, which is uptown, which is on Manhattan. So I cannot really afford to live in Brooklyn because it's so far. So I had to move to Manhattan and find like an affordable place to live in. But I was still doing wedding gigs. So I was coming back to Boston, and that was paying my rent basically. So that was an intense period, but I liked it, you know. And then the rest was teaching and gigging in the New York scene. Now the thing is there are no money on the New York jazz scene. No, nothing. I mean, I really don't know anybody really living in a good way by just playing smalls and smoke jazz club. Like that's not the case. That doesn't exist. And then the COVID happened, and then I lost all my wedding gigs, and then all my other gigs actually. And so the challenge, and that's when, you know, you really want to be able to do as many things as possible, like I said, and not just be a good player or just a jazz player or something. You want to be able to record yourself. You want to be able to teach, like I said. You want to be able to transcribe or put things on paper for people, arrange. What else did I do? I mean, you want to really do as much as you can. And the other thing, which is really challenging, is the fact that I'm an international student, and so my offer in terms of employment is super limited. I cannot like be a barista at Starbucks, for example. I'm not allowed. And if I do that, I lose my visa and I'm back in Paris, which is not what I want. So my possibilities in terms of working are really limited. So that's even more of a challenge. So yeah, I mean, it's been challenging. I've managed it, and I'm glad that I did. And then and that's when, you know, going to great schools like IMEP, Berklee, and MSM comes really into place, because they really help you in that sense. You know, I went to Berklee, and then all of a sudden I had to play in an Indian ensemble and then Brazilian stuff, and then I was recording myself, and I had to learn how to use Pro Tools and how to use Logic. I was doing all of these things at once, and that's super useful, because when you're free in the professional world, you want to be able to do those things. I would say, and it's getting, you know, it's funny because I'm around also like older jazz masters in New York, and these guys know they've never really done that, and so for them it's been really hitting them really hard, because all of a sudden, you know, they cannot really teach it into their apartment anymore. They're really good at gigs at whatever clubs is gone and stuff like this, you know, and yeah, you have to be versatile. That would be my main thing. And to answer the question precisely, is that being able to make a living, make ends meet by just playing gigs is possible, but you want to do as many gigs as you can in terms of style. And making a living of just playing smalls is not a thing. It doesn't exist. So yeah, that's my answer, I'd say.
Thank you, Francois. Wonderful. Amazing to hear your perspective. I see that the questions pile in now at the end of the hour, so maybe we just
That's
move
where we're
on
going to go.
and just
So
spread them out.
we have a question here from Hélène. La situation pandémique semble agir sur vous comme une nécessité de suractivité musicale. Cela n'affecte pas votre équilibre. Margot, would you want to maybe address this? Would you?
Yes, okay. So actually, for me, the more I play, the more I'm happy. So it's really cool. For me, yeah, there is a frustration not to be able to play all together during the quarantine, but you find other ways. Like, as I said, you can record yourself and send it to other musicians, and also play over a track. But I know it's not enough, but we don't have the we're not allowed to see each other, so it's not possible to do another way. So I mean, for me, the more I have work, it's cool. I don't feel like there is too much activity and that I do more because of the situation. But the thing I would say is, I think if you don't like, you have to adapt yourself, and the social medias can be wrong, but for us it can be also very good to be able to be active and like to be visible, so people think about you when they need an instrument for their project. I feel like it works a lot. Like I noticed that when I post, I have people who call me for other stuff, and it's like I don't know if you say this expression in English, but in French you would say effet boule de neige, like a snowball effect, that the more you do, the more you get. So I think while I'm waiting that the situation gets better, I could probably do some videos. Then I practice my instrument, and then I communicate with other people. So yeah, I would do that, I think.
Thanks, Margot. Thank you very much. I think that covers that really well. There's a question here. As an IMEP student, have you felt any competition with other musicians to get to Berklee? I'm not sure I completely understand the question. Jason, could you jump in here? Maybe, have you got any idea about that question itself?
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, you know. And I think our colleagues here could talk about this as well. Going to music school, for any of us that have done this, there's an innate sense of competition. It's we're all measuring ourselves against our fellow musicians, and I feel, and I maybe Marek and others here who've done all of this can jump in at some point.
Yep.
Have felt different levels of this. At Berklee, it's so diverse. It's 4,400 students just at Berklee, not including the conservatory, which is another 750 students. The diversity of students from around the world, around the United States, the kinds and genres of music. There's so many different opportunities that I think what you find is you immediately are trying to kind of find your place and see where you are in the pecking order with other musicians. But then you realize that the competition is really with yourself. At least I felt that. It was like taking a measurement of where I am today and really working with the people that when I had gone to Berklee, who I really admired, my teachers, and saying, you know, where do they see me? Where is my potential? And just measuring how I can push myself more toward my potential. So I would call this a healthy kind of competition. It's not a negative kind of competition. It's one that if you can get your head around it in a positive way, you can actually then set up some goals for yourself artistically, musically, in your career, and build toward them. But you know, Margot and Antoine and Francois, Marek, you know, please jump in, because you've all, and Phil, because you were in Berklee as well, can field this question too.
Yeah, I actually would like to add a little thing concerning this. You know, the sense of competition. Yeah, like as you said, Jason, it's very very accurate. Like indeed, the competition is within yourself. Of course, depending on which scholarship you may have, you need to get as much work and as many great grades as you can. But I think the main thing is that the competition is within yourself and not necessarily towards other. Now there was I just wanted to mention that, and I'm an absolute fan addict for this thing, but like I think from one of the further question we had, you guys were asking about, you know, some experiences that we had at Berklee that really changed our lives and things like this. I would say, and because it's related to this question right now, there is one teacher
that I absolutely, if you guys go to Berklee, there is one teacher that I absolutely recommend to take. His name is Kenny Warner, and he actually, this guy just, he just changed my life. Just not necessarily, you know, about, you know, like the playing and whatever, but also he made me realize how the way of practicing music effortlessly. He wrote a book called The Effortless Mastery, which is amazing, especially when you apply the technique with him on the book, with the book. What was very interesting is that he, throughout this effortless practice, he also put yourself back as a person back into question, into a lot of things. And you know, there's a lot of things due to like with, you know, like certain form of bad ego, and the certain form of like always judging it's like ourselves, always wanting to be comparing ourselves with others, which is unfortunately, which is something we've been born and something we've been subjected with. And what is very interesting with this class, and once again, I really do recommend actually to take it. Actually, Mr. Kenny Warner is also doing free clinics via Zoom. So, you know, like if you check out Effortless Mastery, there's like, I think there's an Instagram or something like this. There's always, I think, updates about the upcoming event and clinics he's doing. And most of them are free. And what is very interesting is, you know, throughout this technique, you actually deconstruct a lot of bad habits you used to have first in your practice, but also, you know, as on many other very deep level as a human being, and with the way you're interacting with the others. So I think, you know, just to come back to this question, I just had this, I just wanted to do this parenthesis about this teacher, because I guess this also reflects a lot about the general psychology of Berklee. Yes, that's it. I think that's it.
Great, thanks, Antoine. And it's a great book too. Huh? I have it. It's beautiful. Effortless Mastery. I would recommend it. We have a. I'm sorry.
Question, because I read that question from Thomas, and it said, as an IMEP student, have you felt in a competition with other musicians to get to Berklee? And I don't know if Thomas also thinks about the process of admissions, because we do have select students here from IMEP. And maybe Thomas is wondering, how does it work to come to Berklee in the first place? And is there any internal competition at IMEP? Maybe he thinks about that. So I just wanted to tell a few words about admissions process. And just for Thomas and everybody else, I mean, admissions process is wide open to anybody. And we audition students all around the world. And I am a part of Board of Admissions. We considered everybody for a particular semester, and the place where you come from doesn't make a difference in your admissions process. So anybody who auditions anywhere in the world has equal chances. That will be the answer to the question about getting to Berklee. Now, obviously, there's competition when it comes to being admitted because of the level that all these students represent, and also, especially when it comes to being considered for a scholarship, because only about 40% of all the students who are admitted get some sort of a scholarship. I'm gonna post my email here in the chat box. If you have any more questions about this, you can always shoot me a direct email, and I'll be happy to answer your questions about scholarships or admissions process, which is what I'm affiliated at Berklee.
Great, thank you, Marek, for the details.
Awesome.
Perfect. So do we have time to get to that last question?
Yeah, let's keep
The
going.
hour's almost up. Here's
no, it's
one
all right.
more.
Can you
Bonjour
read
à
it?
tous.
Yeah, let's try and get to the last. There's a question here from Sylvia. Bonjour à tous. Je me demandais quelles sont vos perspectives dans la musique pour le mois futur si le Covid persiste. Comment prévoyez-vous de faire pour continuer à vivre de la musique dès qu'on sait? Anybody want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick answer and then I'll let our colleagues answer this. It's up to every one of us to find the way forward. We can't wait for the world to give us the answer. So as creative artists, it's our job to find the solution. It's our job to build our own audiences. So COVID is just another obstacle. It's another gig that didn't materialize. It's another opportunity that didn't come through. But that doesn't stop us dead in our tracks. Every day as artists and musicians, we pick ourselves up, we dust ourselves off, and we do it all again. So there's many ways to do this, and your audience might not be where you think it is. Your audience might not be in your neighborhood. It might be on the other side of a planet. It might be the music for a video game. It might be any number of things. And yeah, Phil just put a thumbs up. Phil's actually a person that you should check out because he's one of these people that is incredibly innovative and creative. So he's a cat to follow. He's a person to follow and watch how he moves because he's like Mercury. He just like gets into every crack and crevice of creativity. And as an artist, that's what I think you really need to consider doing. But I'll turn it over to my colleagues here to answer that as well.
Thank you, Jason. And our guests, most of all, who made time for us. So feel free, Francois, Margot, Antoine, to jump in if you have any ideas on that particular subject moving forward. But I think Jason, of course, gave us a wonderful view of how things could move forward.
Okay, so I'll answer the question. For me, I finally have time to compose for because I want to write an album, so it's good because I have time now. So I'm going to take all this time to sit on my piano and compose a lot, and I'm going to continue to teach online to my students as I did during the first quarantine. I have around 15 students I teach to, and most of them asked me to continue the lessons online. So I think we're going to continue like this while I'm crossing my fingers for the concerts at the end of the year.
Yeah. Just to add up, yeah, as Francois was mentioning earlier as well, the more hats you have, the more you may give you a chance to find jobs whatever they are. Of course, right now the COVID, in a certain way, favorize jobs that are more like indoors. So if you're good at mixing, it's very good for you. But even if you're a composer and you have someone is asking you to compose something, like it's definitely a thing to take. Teaching is, I would say, like right now, is mostly the main thing I have. But once again, it's also very challenging to teach different levels for different kind of music, online and not being physical with the person. It's really up to us to find a solution for that. Jason was mentioning that as well, which is why I also think that I don't want to say the half of your time should be dedicated to this, but almost like half of your time, especially in periods like this, half of your time should be dedicated to really a control of your health and like certain control of like your I don't want to say your Zen attitude. It's not. It sounds kind of cheesy, but it's like but it's kind of the idea of like sometimes when we don't think too much and we go with a certain flow of of either creative or like taking whatever thing that people may offer us, or even us, because that's also us, to go and grab the opportunity, like with whatever contacts we have. It could be in France, it could be in Belgium, in Martinique, in China, whatever, like this is where like it's important also to go with a flow, kind of a day per day thing, even if you need to have goals. And I think sometimes we want to be too much. What's the word for that? We want to be too much. We're expecting too many things at a time, and for most of the time we do that, we're missing the point, you know. And while that, if you indeed set up a goal, like some goals for you, and like try to reach them out as much as you can, but at the same time take a certain distance towards it, you know, and continue on the rest of your time, of course, like to really continue your creation, really continue to multiply your contacts, coming back to old contacts, because for most of the time we never do that, and you'd be surprised, but there's so many other people I wouldn't expect to work with that actually call me back, and yeah, and I finally got the best gig with those people. Like it's very, you cannot really expect anything, you know. So, and yeah, it's very, psychologically it's very, very, very frustrating. We all, I guess that we all have our moments like that, but keep it up. That's it.
Fantastic, beautiful. Thank you, Antoine. We have Jason. We have a question here from someone concerning how the auditions pass at Berklee. Is that something that maybe that you would just give a quick answer to, or something that he should run the question through IMEP?
Well, I think Marek is here, so let's have Marek jump in
Yes,
and answer
absolutely. Marek, you want to pick up on that, man?
So how do the auditions for Berklee work? Is there an imposed choice of tune, or do they choose their own tune to perform? And does it have to be a composition, or can it be any kind of existing tune that they play? You're on mute, Marek, still currently. So there you go. Okay.
Right. So I spoke a bit about the auditions earlier. I underlined the fact that there is a lot of competition when it comes to being admitted to Berklee, even more so when it comes to getting a scholarship. So the question about audition is valid because audition is the main component of the admissions process, and it's primary to all the other criteria. So your level that you demonstrate during the audition really determines the outcome, plus the quality of academic submission. As far as the type of music that you should present, there's no limitations either stylistically or you know, as far as what type of tune would you present. Would it be original composition or a cover? When I talk to students about musical choices, I try to get them a sense of how do we perceive their performance. And one important thing to remember is, since we don't have any pre-screening process, this is our first interaction with you as a musician. So as you all well know, a few minutes of your first performance really can set the tone for how you're perceived as a musician. You know, if you can think about a very skilled musician, usually their tone is the first message that gets across and really is important for a listener. So that said, that piece of music that you play as a prepared piece really sets the tone for the style of the audition as far as music goes, and also a level of difficulty of the other exercises that follow your prepared piece. So pick something that really represents you well as a musician, something that is not technically too advanced, so you don't have to be too nervous, but something that shows your musicality, your competence. And it can be either original piece of music, if you decide that the music that you write is representing the quality that can, you know, compete with other known repertoire. If you decide to pick a song that's well known, pick something that doesn't impose too much of a need of copying that song, so that you can show your originality. So that'll be the main guidelines I would tell you. Again, there's no stylistic requirements. You can play your composition or you can play a cover. The style of your performance is not limited. Keep in mind that it should be not too long, because the audition is 15 minutes long. So the prepared piece should be about 5 minutes. After the prepared piece, we will test your improvisational skills. We will test your e-training from melodic and rhythmic standpoint, and you'll also be asked to read some music. If you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, ad@berklee.edu.
Great. Thank you, Mike. So I think that we've, what do you think? I think we've done pretty well here. Anyone have any remaining questions or anything to add before going further? I just want to make sure I make it a point of thanking my good friends and colleagues, first of all, here amongst the students, as well as everybody working here, for taking the time to do this. I've learned a lot myself, quite a bit, in fact, more than I even expected. Does anyone have any further question that they would want to ask, or any point that they would like to raise? So you can go to the chat site if you'd like. Jason, I turn to you. What do you think, man?
I think this has been incredible. I really appreciate you and Phil and Francois and I know that Gustave is somewhere in the internet sphere. But I really want to thank Margot and Antoine and Francois in New York for being with us and sharing, because you're proof positive. You know, the work that you've done, the commitment that you're making to your craft and your artistry and your studies is critical. It's critical for us as a endorsement of the work that, IMEP and Berklee put into creating opportunities for learning, but also for all of our fellow musicians here that are trying to find a way forward. You are sort of the beacons for them to do this work. So I really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you all.
And please, be sure, follow IMEP on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Follow Berklee as well. If you're not in those feeds, there's a lot of great information in there. We are going to be hybrid in Boston in January. We're going to have people back on campus. We are excited about this. Berklee is taking incredible steps to ensure that we can get people back doing music together. And we hope to see many of you here. If you're not already at IMEP, we hope to see you there the next time we get the chance to visit in person. And we hope to see you in Boston. Please, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, and stay creative. Thank you, Peter. Thanks, everybody. Be well. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Stay in touch, everyone, please.